Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you here today with an article from the Washington Free Beacon. This is dated, I don't know when, there it is, May 23rd, and this is going to be a long one, so strap yourselves in. And I've made many videos already about the competency crisis, usually in regards to like airlines and stuff like that, what we're seeing there. But this is something a little different now, and this is in regards to UCLA medical school. So this story just came out, as I said, this article is from the 23rd of May. So this is within the last few days from the time this is being posted. Excuse me, not cutting that out. But the title is A Failed Medical School, How Racial Preferences Supposedly Outlawed in California Have Persisted at UCLA. Says up to half of UCLA medical students now fail basic tests of medical competence. Whistleblowers say affirmative action, illegal in California since 1996, is to blame. And I don't know about you, but when I go to a doctor, I'm just looking at them to say, like, fix me, what's wrong with me. I don't really care what the person looks like. If you could fix me, that's fine. But how would you like it if you were going to the doctor for something and they didn't know what they were doing? I don't think that's a good thing, but this is where DEI or DIE or affirmative action was always going to take us, was down this route, especially in the last few years, given that there's like a major preference on this sort of thing. So let's go ahead and dive right in. It says, long considered one of the best medical schools in the world, the University of California, Los Angeles, or UCLA, David Geffen School of Medicine receives as many as 14,000 applications a year. Of those, it accepted just 173 students in the 2023 admission cycle, a record low acceptance rate of 1.3%. The median matriculant took difficult science courses in college and earned a 3.8 GPA and scored in the 88th percentile on the Medical College Admissions Test, or MCAT. Without those stellar stats, some doctors at the school say students can struggle to keep pace with the demanding curriculum. So when it came time for the admissions committee to consider one such student in November 2021, a black applicant with grades and test scores far below the UCLA average, some members of the committee felt that this particular candidate, based on the available evidence, was not the best fit for the top-tier medical school, according to two people present for the committee's meeting, and that would make sense. I mean, I again, don't care about skin color, but if you just were to look at that person's grades in a vacuum, obviously they would not be someone that qualifies, but keep that word that I just highlighted in mind as we go on. It says, so the reservations were not well received. When an admissions officer voiced concern about the candidate, the two people said the dean of admissions, Jennifer Lucero, exploded in anger. It says, quote, did you not know African-American women are dying at a higher rate than everybody else, end quote. Lucero asked the admissions officer, these people said. The candidate's score shouldn't matter, she continued, because we need people like this in the medical school. Never mind the fact that she's not qualified, she's just looking at it through just simply a prism of skin color and skin color only, and that is extremely dangerous, as we're going to find out, or as you can imagine. This, even before the Supreme Court's landmark affirmative action ban last year, public schools in California were barred by state law from considering race in admissions. The outburst from Lucero, who discussed race explicitly despite that ban, unsettled some admissions officers, one of whom reached out to other committee members in the wake of the incidents. Quote, we are not consistent in the way we apply the metrics to these applicants, end quote, the official wrote in an email obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, and they wrote that this is troubling. I wondered, the official added, if this applicant had been a white male or an Asian female for that matter, whether we would have had that much discussion. And the answer to that is probably not, because this Lucero person seems like they are, well, let's apply the ist word that starts with an R, A, C to her, because it seems like that's what she is. It says, since Lucero took over medical admissions in June 2020, several of her colleagues have asked the same question. In interviews with the Free Beacon and complaints to UCLA officials, including investigators in the university's Discrimination Prevention Office, faculty members with first-hand knowledge of the admissions process say it has prioritized diversity over merit, resulting in progressively less qualified classes that are now struggling to succeed. And again, as I said at the very beginning, this was always going to be the end result of that, is that you have people that are being pulled in for jobs that they are not qualified to do. And again, skin color shouldn't matter. Okay, you don't want people, I think, performing surgery on you that they like, you go to a doctor's office and it's like where'd you finish in medical school? Oh, near the bottom or something. That's like, you kind of probably get up and walk out. Like, you want the best people working on you. Okay, and again, I don't care what color skin they have, but when you start prioritizing things that are not merit, this is what happens. Okay. It says race-based admissions have turned UCLA into a failed medical school, said one former member of the admissions staff. We want racial diversity so badly, we're willing to cut corners to get it. This is more than cutting corners. This is just like, what is this? Like, you're just saying, forget every rule we have. It's only racial diversity. It says the story is based on written correspondence with UCLA officials, internal data on student performance, and interviews with 8 professors at the medical school, 6 of whom have worked with or under Lucero on medical student and residency admissions. And by the way, it didn't say what her actual qualifications for this are or is, whatever. You know, like, is she a doctor or is she someone, like, is she just an admissions person? Like, because there's a part of me that just goes, I wonder how a doctor could go, yes, let's take an unqualified person over a qualified person. It's like, you should get your ass sued for that. Not just for, like, being like an anti-affirmative action thing, but, like, if that person that you put in medical school does something that ends up hurting or killing another person, well, kind of your fault. Together, they provide an unprecedented amount of how racial preferences, outlawed in California since 1996, have nonetheless continued, upending academic standards at one of the top medical schools in the country. The school has consequently taken a hit in the rankings and seen a sharp rise in the number of students failing basic standardized tests, raising concerns about their clinical competence. And I thought I read somewhere, and it didn't actually, I'm skimming the rest of what I see on the screen right now, and I don't see it. Maybe it's on that chart. But I think they went from like 6th in the country to 18th is what I saw. So again, that's another consequence you're going to have to face, is that your rankings are going to go down. You're hurting your own product, and I don't think they care. It says, I have students on the rotation who don't know anything, a member of the admissions committee told the Free Beacon. People get in and they struggle. It is almost unheard of for admissions officials to go public, even anonymously, and provide a window into confidential deliberations, much less to accuse their colleagues of breaking the law or lowering standards. They've agreed to come forward anyway, several officials told the Free Beacon, because the results of Lucero's push for diversity have been so alarming. I wouldn't normally talk to a reporter, a UCLA family member said, but there's no way to stop this without embarrassing the medical school. I think they're probably pretty embarrassed by this already, but I get the point. Oh, here it is. It does say 6th to 18th right here. I see it. So within 3 years of Lucero's hiring in 2020, UCLA dropped from 6th to 18th place in the U.S. News and World Report's rankings for medical research. And in some of the cohorts, she admitted, more than 50% of the students failed standardized tests on emergency medicine, family medicine, internal medicine, and pediatrics. And there's looks like someone took a picture of their computer with all that stuff. I could barely read it, but let's just keep going. It says, those tests, known as shelf exams, which are typically taken at the end of each clinical rotation, measure basic medical knowledge and play a pivotal role in residency applications. Though only 5% of students fail each test nationally, the rates are much higher at UCLA, having increased tenfold in some subjects since 2020, according to internal data obtained by the Free Beacon. And here's another computer screen print. It says that uptick coincided with a steep drop in the number of Asian matriculants and tracks the subjective impressions of faculty who say the students have never been more poorly prepared. One professor said that a student in the operating room could not identify a major artery when asked, then berated the professor for putting her on the spot. So how would you like that if that was you under the knife there, and a professor said, like, you know, do this, and the person that was supposed to be operating on you was like, I don't know. And then got pissed that she was being asked to identify. Is that someone that you'd want working on you? I'm guessing no, but hey, maybe I'm talking out of turn here. So another said that students at the end of their clinical rotations don't know basic lab tests and, in some cases, are unable to present patients. Again, are these the people that you want doing this stuff for you or to you? Yes or no? So I don't know how some of these students are going to be junior doctors, the professor said. Faculty are seeing a shocking decline in knowledge of medical students. And it's going to take a long time to get people to trust the institutions again if this kind of shit keeps happening. So, and for those who have seen the competency crisis up close, double standards in admissions are a big part of the problem. All the normal criteria for getting into medical school only apply to people of certain races, an admissions officer said. For other people, those criteria are completely disregarded. Led by Lucero, who also serves as the vice chair for equity, diversity, and inclusion of UCLA's anesthesiology department, and there's the problem, the DEI thing there, says the admissions committee routinely gives Black and Latino applicants a pass for subpar metrics for people who served on it said, while whites and Asians need near perfect scores to even be considered. Yeah, so this is completely inverted. And again, don't care what color you are, just have the grades. That's it. That's all you need to do. Okay. It says the bar for underrepresented minorities is as low as you could possibly imagine, one committee member told the Free Beacon. It completely disregards grades and achievements. Lucero did not respond to a request for comment. Of course she wouldn't, because she'd look like a complete asshat if she did. Several officials said that they support holistic admissions and don't believe test scores should be judged in isolation. The problem, as they see it, is that the committee is not just weighing academic merit against community service or considering how much time a given student had to study for the MCAT. For certain applicants, they say, hardship and community service seem to be the only things that matter to the majority of the committee's 20 to 30 members, many of whom were handpicked by Lucero, according to people familiar with the selection process. So this is what the communist does, is gets in there and then starts picking their own people to take it over. And now you have a bunch of people that are picking people to get into the medical school based on absolutely nothing at all. Says we were always outnumbered, an admissions officer told the Free Beacon, referring to committee members who expressed concern about low grades. Other people would get upset when we brought up GPA. Says Lucero hasn't been kind to dissenters. Speaking on a condition of anonymity, 6 people who've worked with her described a pattern of racially charged incidents that has dispirited officials and pushed some of them to resign from the committee. Can't say I blame those folks. She has lashed out at officials who question the qualifications of minority candidates, 5 sources said, suggesting naysayers are privileged, implying that they are racist, and subjecting them to diversity training sessions. Yes, so this is the villain here, is this Lucero lady. She's doing all the things far leftists do, okay? Calling them privileged, saying that they are racist, and then saying you have to go to diversity training sessions, which don't, I think I've seen before that those don't actually do anything, so they're pointless. After a Native American applicant was rejected in 2021, Lucero chewed out the committee and made members sit through a 2-hour lecture on Native history delivered by her own sister, according to 3 people familiar with the incident. No applications were reviewed that day, an official present for the lecture said. Like, what was that going to do? So she she had them sit through a struggle session almost, it seems. And, got a little bit of nepotism going there that it was done by her own sister. So, of course, it wasn't actually going to do anything. It says, in the anesthesiology department, where Lucero helps rank applicants to the department's residency program, she has rebuffed calls to blind the race of candidates, telling colleagues in a January 2023 email that, despite California's ban on racial preferences, we are not required to blind any information. Well, I'd say that law says you kind of are, but okay. Says that alone could get UCLA in legal trouble, according to Adam Mortara, the lead trial lawyer for the plaintiffs in Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard, the Supreme Court case that outlawed affirmative action nationwide. Yeah, I would say this guy probably knows what he's talking about. Is asking for information about an applicant's race when no lawful use can be made of it is presumptively illegal, Mortara said. You can't have evidence of overt discrimination like this and not have someone come forward as a plaintiff. Lucero has even advocated moving candidates up or down the residency rank list based on race. And again, what is that going to do? How does it tell you how well that person is going to be as a doctor? And the answer is that it doesn't. It does nothing for that. It was at a meeting in February 2022, according to 2 people present, Lucero demanded that a highly qualified white male be knocked down several spots, as she put it. We have too many of his kind already. Imagine if that was said about anyone that wasn't white. That person would be run out of their job, as this woman should be. She should not have this job. She's an obvious racist. Okay, at this point, I don't even think it's worth saying allegedly. This is just kind of the evidence is piling up here. She also told doctors who voiced concern that they had no right to an opinion because they were not BIPOC. Sources said, and insisted that a Hispanic applicant who had performed poorly on her anesthesiology rotation in medical school should be bumped up. Neither candidate was ultimately removed. So she's keeping people in there that just don't know how to do the job. Imagine if this was say, an oil rig worker or a miner, or somebody in one of those jobs that just couldn't do it. Would they be keeping those people there? And the answer is no, of course not. It says Lucero's comments from the meeting were flagged in an email to UCLA's Discrimination Prevention Office, which has received several complaints about her since 2023. Email show, well, good, that's a start. I doubt it's going to do anything, but that's good. As the office has declined to act on these complaints, like I just said, on the grounds that they aren't serious enough to merit an investigation, according to a source with direct knowledge of the situation. The Discrimination Prevention Office did not respond to a request for comment. And the focus on racial diversity has coincided with a dramatic shift in the racial and ethnic composition of the medical school, where the number of Asian matriculants fell by almost a third between 2019 and 2022, according to publicly available data. No other elite medical school in California saw a similar decline. So I think you could say at this point that it's this lady's fault, like almost exclusively this lady's fault, followed by the people that she hired into the committee. Because as the demographics of UCLA have changed, the number of students failing their shelf exam has soared, trends professors at the medical school say are connected. Between 2020, the year Lucero assumed her post, and 2023, when the first classes she admitted were taking their shelf exams, the failure rate rose dramatically across all subjects. And again, it sounds like she's the problem. In some cases, increasing tenfold relative to the 2020 baseline, per internal data obtained by the Free Beacon. UCLA still produces some very good graduates, one professor said, but a third to half of the medical school is incredibly unqualified. And that's a damning assessment. It says the collapse in qualifications has been compounded by UCLA's decision in 2020 to condense its preclinical curriculum for 2 years to 1 in order to add more time for research and community service. That means students arrive at their clinical rotations with just a year of courses under their belt, some of which focus less on science than social justice. And again, there's a problem. Says first-year students spend 3 to 4 hours every other week in structural racism and health equity, and required class that covers topics like fat phobia, that's not a thing, has featured anti-Semitic speakers, wonderful, and is now the subject of an internal review. Like, why? Like, again, if you're going to a doctor saying, I need help, fix me, are you going to sit there and say, like, well, what did you do for your community today? Like, do you give a shit? Like, even a little? Probably not. Says they spend an additional 7 hours a week in foundations of practice, which includes units on interpersonal communication skills, and according to one medical student, basically tells us how to be a good person. I mean, okay, that kind of makes sense. I mean, you're going to be dealing with people constantly in your job, so you probably should know how to talk to people, or at least give people sort of a, kind of a jumpstart about, like, this is what you should say. I mean, for example, and this is not really, the same thing, but when I took a customer service job 20 years ago, they trained you how to actually address people and how to, and you practiced it. And I mean, this is obviously different. This is a much more serious thing than what I was doing, but I understand the whole, like, saying, okay, like, you need to actually learn how to talk to people properly. Like, I don't have a problem with that, but nothing here says that this is bad other than what this next sentence says, where it says the 2 courses eat up time that can be spent on physiology or anatomy, professors say, and leave struggling students with fewer hours to learn the basics. Yeah, okay, I mean, from that perspective, I get that, but again, I don't have a problem with them learning how to talk to people. That's, again, not a huge deal to me, but maybe make it, like some sort of, like, you should do this on your free time, but spend the other time on courses. I don't know. So this has been a colossal failure, one professor posted in April on a forum for medical school applicants. The new curriculum is not working, and the students are grossly unprepared for clinical rotations. Nearly a fourth of UCLA medical students in the class of 2025 have failed 3 or more shelf exams, data from the school show, forcing some students to repeat classes and persuading others to postpone a different test, the Step 2 licensing exam, that is typically taken in the 3rd year of medical school and is a prerequisite for most residency programs. So I guess that's the number here. The shelf exam fails 23.8, so it's nearly a quarter. Yeah, that's bad. Around 20% of UCLA students have not taken Step 2 by January of their 4th year, according to the data. 10% have not even taken the more basic Step 1, an extremely high number, one professor said, that will force many students to extend medical school. And I guess that's what these screen prints are here, but I can barely read any of that. Can't even click on any of them. Yeah, you can, but whatever. Not worried about it. Says it's a combination of a bad curriculum and bad selection, another professor said, referring to the admissions process. Some students are accepted with GPA so low they shouldn't even be applying. And they're applying because, well, no one said they shouldn't. The UCLA did not respond to a request for comment, of course, because they're going to look like asshats, and they're probably trying to figure out some sort of damage control right now. It says as medical schools around the country adjust to the Supreme Court's affirmative action ban, the experience of UCLA offers a preview of how administrators may skirt the law and devise public-spirited excuses for violating it. Lucero has told the admissions committee that each class should represent the diversity of California, including its remote and rural areas, so that graduating students will return to their hometowns and beef up the medical infrastructures there, officials say. I think that's just dumb. This race is rarely mentioned outright, and unlike the committee, the anesthesiology residents, the committee for students does not see the race or ethnicity of applicants, and you shouldn't. It says, instead, officials say, Lucero uses proxies like zip codes and euphemisms like disadvantage to shut down criticism of unqualified candidates, citing a finding from the Association of American Medical Colleges that, technically, most students with below average MCATs make it to their second year of medical school. How well they do after that point goes undiscussed and undisclosed. As we have asked for metrics on how these folks actually do, one committee member said, none of that is ever divulged to us. Oh, that's nice. And it says an update says a previous version of the story incorrectly stated that a fourth of UCLA medical students failed 3 or more shelf exams in 2021. The story has been updated to reflect that a fourth of UCLA medical students in the class of 2025 have failed 3 or more shelf exams. So still bad news one way or the other. But yeah, that's the end of the very long article here, and hopefully you stayed with me throughout this entire thing. But like I said at the very, very beginning, is that this kind of just shows like the competency crisis is everywhere right now. And it's all because people just want others to get into things, areas of study and professions. That's the word I'm looking for, that have nothing to do with their actual ability to do the job that they're hired or to do the job based on their qualifications. And we've seen this all over the place. And it's coming to, again, just do you want your doctor or your surgeon to be someone that wasn't qualified to be there? Okay. Simple as that. And I think this is pretty damning, and hopefully UCLA comes out and decides like, yeah, this woman needs to be fired. Okay. Because she's obviously not good for their program and has taken, just the mere fact that they went from 6th to 18th in the rankings means that what she's done has not been good, and they've lost a lot of their reputation from it. So I'm done blabbering. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I'd definitely like to hear from you. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.